Beaxy Exchange is a safe, easy-to-use, U.S.-compliant exchange.
Because cryptocurrency is such a young industry, there's still a real lack of transparency.
So we are actually using Dragonchain's technology to help solve these transparency issues.
Beaxy partnered with Dragonchain to take advantage of their anti-fraud and transparency systems.
So using Dragonchain's technology, we're actually able to use provably fair tech to verify that our order books and trades and executions are all very transparent to our users. This alone makes Beaxy the only provably fair exchange in the entire world.
I have more than 20 years experience doing large, technically complex projects. One of the things that I was really pleased with in working with Dragonchain is that it allowed us to do the integration with their technology very quickly.
That's what makes Dragonchain and this a perfect partnership.
All right, welcome to third episode of the World Blockchain Roundtable. So the hosts for today, we have Abbott, president of Beaxy Exchange, Zach Burks, CEO of Mintable, Greg Lang and Austin Roberts from the Rivet team. Oren might or might not be in, and creator and blockchain entrepreneur may join later, and Dave Johnson from the Den.Social team. So we'll get straight off to the topics. And first up from Tenacious Dragon, question: are the current faces of crypto, Elon Musk, Max Kaiser, Peter McCormick, a good thing or a bad thing for the industry? Does putting so much focus and trust in these individuals go against the very nature of the technology? You know, Satoshi as an example. So who has thoughts on this before I weigh in?
It's hard. I think it's... I'll let you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, no, please.
Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, are they really the face of the industry? You know, when you, once you get into the industry and maybe outward facing, I guess it becomes different faces, right? You know, I was in Miami this last week, and Crypto Cobain wasn't there, but he's a major influence to the entire community, right? So it's, I guess, the outward facing appearance. People like Elon Musk, it's, and I'm not sure if you guys saw Senator Warren and her come out with her little rant there, but it was very similar, right? It's like, who's really behind that rant? And they know that I saw an interesting thing that, you know, it's hard for them to go with the line of, oh, it's used for illicit drugs and it's used for, you know, illicit purposes. So now they have to go with, well, it's bad for the environment. You know, it's like, where is the government trying to shift the narrative? And who's really behind this? Because it seems a lot like the Fed's talking and not necessarily the, you know, people like Elon Musk. So I don't know. I'd make the argument that these people aren't necessarily the face of the industry, right? I think that there are better faces, and we're putting those people forward. And Michael Saylor, a good example. Sam Bankman-Fried, great example. You know, I would rather them be the spokespeople for crypto as opposed to, you know, the ones that are mentioned in this post.
I think they sort of are the face from a certain angle, though. Like, you got to think about the perspective of different types of people. To me, they're not the face of the industry. To me, they're not speaking like directly to what's really being built from, you know, from the ground up. But right. If you look at like most people that are aware that something big is happening in the world, a huge majority of them do see those people as the face of, like, that's who's always talking about it, and that's who people are listening to. Yeah. So they are, even, you know, in at least in a certain capacity.
Well, like a one-to-one comparison, like, would you put Pomp ahead of Peter McCormick at that? Like, he's on CNBC at 2 p.m. today. So, like, just if you pick them apart one by one, like, yeah, it's really hard to argue that anyone outside of Elon, right, is one of the richest people in the world. But Sam Bankman-Fried's 28, and he's already a multi-billionaire, right? He's well on his way to achieving that status. And so I guess just when you're looking at it on an individual case-by-case basis, like, there's a good argument for the other side too, right?
You know, I look at them a lot like influencers, right? It's almost like YouTubers. There's no one that's the face of YouTube that's a YouTuber, right? But you have big names. You know, you have Mr. Beast, Logan Paul. Are these people the face of YouTube? No. And of course, Bitcoin and YouTube are different, but it's a community, and they're influencers. You know, whether it's Michael Saylor, Elon Musk, if they're constantly in the news, constantly posting and tweeting about it, they're just influencers. Influencers come and go, right?
Yeah.
Well, who we had in 2016 and 2017 is the Bitcoin influencers are no longer, the influencers of today. I'm trying to think of, what is this guy's name? He, I'll remember his name in a bit, but he was real popular. He was at all the conferences, always the headlining speaker, and now I can't even remember the guy's name. Tony Bays. Tony Bays.
Yes,
right.
yes,
Where's
Jimmy
Tony
Song
at?
and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Are we seeing articles about them? But we used to see it all the time in 2016, 2017. So
right.
I think they'll come and they'll go. It's just they're influencers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, it reminds me of this sort of concept that they brought. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Kingdom of Heaven. There's a scene where the old knight makes his son the new knight, and he says, "This is your vow, and this is so you remember." He slaps him across the face real hard. We're a decentralized community, right? This whole thing is meant to be an experiment in leadership by groups moving in whatever direction they think is best as individuals. And we've got, Elon Musk jumping in and saying stuff about it, and he can be the spokesperson if he can get the limelight and whatever. It's going to be really challenging, I think, for everybody to remember that it is decentralized. And so that means whoever wants to speak about it gets to speak about it, and they're not necessarily speaking for everybody, even though they are, right? Like, I like the fact that these guys are doing this, just because it challenges us to have a respect for diversity of viewpoints, but two, it actually shows that the industry is more than an industry. Like, there's nobody in control of it, and I think that's actually part of the magic, but it's also a double-edged sword.
And to add to that, from somebody who comes at it from the technology angle, Elon Musk may be moving the markets around, but he's not really moving the technology. I mean, I know he's made some proposals for Dogecoin to ramp up its transaction throughput by some ridiculous amount. But the people who are the public faces of this, the people who my mom hears talking about cryptocurrency, are not the people who are actually driving the direction of what's being developed, what's where this is actually going.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty tired of seeing notifications on my phone about news because Elon Musk made a tweet about Bitcoin. Like when can we get? I love Elon Musk. I mean, I love everything he's doing with SpaceX and Starlink and stuff like that. But come on, I don't want to see this news about a tweet about sending Dogecoin to the moon.
And I actually do.
I think though that's in the end the biggest issue is that the media is. I mean, and they're gravitating towards as a billionaire, and there are people with freaking yellow pants on. So they're gonna pay attention to some douchebag that walks up on stage, makes a scene with yellow pants on. I think he had white pants on this time, but still, it's the same damn thing. It's this clan of people that, and it's funny because if you go to different markets, like when we were in Europe, there were some people like that too that just aren't well known worldwide yet. But the same thing, they're like, this is a red pants gang because it's a different country, maybe something. But it's bizarre stuff, and these people. The worst part, I wouldn't mind if they're a user of the technology or they have a vision to do something with the technology, but it isn't that. Everything that you saw coming out of Miami, at least that bubbled up into because I was busy, but what bubbled up was all number go up stuff. It was all BS, meaningless, speculative drivel. Right. I mean, it's great for an exchange, right? So for for Bay, right? But it's still, it doesn't mean anything. And you have people who are making the tech look like trash, look like a scam. It's like you might as well have thrown up BitConnect again. It's like, it's the same damn thing. But anyway,
I was in Miami, and there was a lot of that, right? Especially there were some, the maximalist cult kind of came out a little bit. That was very interesting. But I don't know, cult, like whatever you want to call it, right? But also I saw Jack Mahler's talk, right, and live, and that was a really cool moment. Like there were some definitely some highlights and some great introductions and things that came out of that. Like I mean, he was very emotional talking about, because he's been working in El Salvador and seeing like him go through that and then announce it. I mean, standing ovation, and it was like there was a lot of, as you say, there was a lot of dribble, but there was some good things, and I think that, and I was trying to explain to someone the other day, like we have all these meme coins and things, that there's always going to be that part of the industry, and that's just almost hard to eradicate. It's always going to be like, oh, to the moon, it's going to be, and a lot of people, myself included, right? In 2016, I got into crypto because I was like, Jesus, my friends are making so much money, and it's like, then it evolves into, then you start building something cool and you fall in love with the space, right? So it's interesting because I feel like the meaningless dribble eventually turns into something greater, It's like there's just progressions.
I would just like to prompt people to pay attention to the substantive stuff instead of the Max Kaisers and the whoever the dude was with the Dodge stuff and all the rest of that. It was it's pointless, and it just looks bad. So
right, and I mean, if Elon Musk brings in people who are interested in building within this community, I think that's great. I don't necessarily want to.
That's a troll, though. I mean, I'm going to tell you, the SEC. That is a troll to the SEC. That he because that they had to go and look. It's like, wait a minute, how much Doge do you have? And my bet is he has no Doge on purpose, so that he's going to tweet about it and act like he's pumping it like crazy. So when they come after him, he's not done anything wrong. And
I hope that's what happens.
I'm afraid, that's my guess. It makes sense.
This guy's
what I like about,
he made $1 billion. Like, I mean, what's he actually doing? What's he actually caring about? My hunch is what he actually is working on, what he's talking about, are completely different things.
Exactly.
For Elon, yeah, probably. But I feel like at the same time, looking at his tweets, which of course is just tweets, right? It's he knows it is publicly facing, but looking at it, you could almost see a story of a typical user who gets into crypto, a very new user, right? They get into Bitcoin, and then they dive into, shit coins, and then they start, saying all these random, first he went to Doge, and then I think he did, Cum Rocket.
He tweeted Ethereum way back too, right? One of the very first ones he did, Ethereum.
He literally tweeted, one word.
Yeah, he's probably been into crypto for a while, but it's just funny because you could kind of see a narrative be painted. And you look at it and you're like, I've seen this a million times, right? It's a new person who comes in, and I just think it's entertainment, and I wish it wasn't treated as gospel.
Yeah, and that is, by the way, the other side of it, that it's the same thing that in the past, let's say, like China has done, or even the Bank of England has done, where they announce something that sounds very positive for crypto, then they did not. Then they say, no, that's not true. A few months later, then they do it again, and they say it's not true. And it's the same thing and you have to wonder if certain people in certain governments don't either make that happen or let it happen, knowing that they can take advantage. But
well, I mean, they absolutely are. I mean, let's look at the facts here, right? We don't have a smoking gun on this particular case, and that's why people will say, oh, Greg, you're just being a conspiracy theorist. Get out my tinfoil hat. What, right? But you can look at historically what we've done. Like, we have a long history of coordinated media pushes from, folks who are tasked with supporting the sanctity of the state and the security of the state, who have coordinated efforts in the media to push certain narratives. And like, you can look back at 2008. When people were trying to justify how we responded to 9/11, or you can go back further than that, like literal faked attacks in the Gulf of Tonkin incident, right? Literal thing that people used to call in conspiracy theory that later was proven to be just something that we actually did. I mean, Iran had a ruler that we set up because we just didn't like the guy that they had in there, and the folks at British Petroleum didn't quite appreciate him, so they asked the CIA for help, and the Shah of Iran came out of that. Like, these are things that start conspiracy and end up being like, oh yeah, I guess we should have told you so. But to think that they're not doing that right now because they don't perceive the threat to
well, and you don't necessarily need some
right?
grand conspiracy either in order to believe that the the folks in government would see this as a threat. I mean, the government has heavy dependencies on being able to control their currency, and just taking opportunities to make the alternatives seem wild and unstable, and maybe pushing the pendulum a little bit further when it goes one direction. You don't need some grand conspiracy to say they orchestrated this and then this and then this, and it's just they push the pendulum a little further when they see the opportunity, and I think that's how these sorts of things work.
And it's just as users, the funny, if people are speculators out there, in the very least, when a country bans it, it's the weirdest time to dump it, because it's the technology that you really can't ban, and
it'll be back in a week.
Yeah, so it's it's always a funny thing. Like, why are people, except that they know everyone else is going to dump it because it's negative news, so I'm going to dump it. It's bizarre, and I don't know. It's just these particular people, and then we could go into the maximalism side of this too. That the dude saying that if you're against Bitcoin, the rudeness, what word did he use?
Toxicity, I think.
Toxicity. If you're against the toxic nature of Bitcoin influencers, then you're against Bitcoin and you're against freedom. And so it's just this total BS thing that is not attractive for new users, not attractive for the whole point of the damn tech itself. It's dumb, is what it is. And then it's like, McCormick saying he is right. It's just funny to me, but I don't know. It's weird. And my conspiracy side would say that it's all psyop. I mean, because there's a reason that you would want, the banks don't want Bitcoin, the VCs didn't want ICOs and all the token sales stuff, because that was killing their industry. And so you have to think about where these people come from. And it's like they popped out of nowhere. Right. I don't know. Anyway,
if men with guns could shut it off, they would have already. So what else are they gonna do?
Yeah, well, you never know.
Right.
So let's see.
Maybe I'm the odd one out here, but I kind of welcome it a little bit. When I think about what I personally feel that we're on the verge of globally as like a species going into a new era, and I do believe that. I just think, of course, it's going to be a shit show for a long time while this plays out. It's going to be. And so maybe I had a different experience in Miami, but I didn't watch a lot of the talks because I saw they were going to be on YouTube. So I figured, well, I'm not here for that. I can watch them later. And I talked to the people that were there, and I talked to the people who had their business there. And what I saw was people looking to build better worlds, people that wanted to work together to see what I can do to help you, to help everybody else do this thing we're trying to do together. And they
were going to do it with Bitcoin.
Because
the whole thing was that conference was Bitcoin only, right?
Well, yeah, it's Bitcoin only. Yeah. And then there was a friend of mine sent me a spreadsheet that had a bunch of other stuff going on. There's a bunch of stuff going on in Miami around that. And there was planes in the sky that said, sell Doge, buy pussy, and stick to space Elon. And, there was a bunch of crazy stuff going on. And it was really off-putting. But once you got down to talking to people that were there for like, okay, what can we do together? There were those people there. They were around.
I'll say I don't mind craziness. Like when you get into the FOMO nature and how exciting you can feel it, right? How exciting the whole thing is. It's the part where they want to divide. It is the part that is bad. And it's like, I don't think it should be assumed, oh, well, some people are toxic. Sure they are, but it shouldn't be framed in a way that says, it should be toxic because those people are horrible because they want to do something different than what we want to do. That's the part that's messed up, right? So anyway, okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I was gonna say the only thing else I was gonna say is the one problem I do have though is like when I try to agree with maximalists and they just tell me that I'm using Bitcoin wrong, right? Like I'm using Bitcoin, but not in the way that you think that it should be. Like I'm using the technology that you're promoting. But I'm still not doing it right.
And that's, by the way, that is the point. This technology, and any technology for that matter, should be usable for things that the creators don't anticipate, right? I mean, you can say that Satoshi anticipated store of value. he wanted a digital cash, but he knew the scarcity would create value, right? Market value. And yet now we're limiting the scope of utility for reasons, whatever. Anyway.
Well, so Toxic Unleashed, ultimately open source code, right? That's the thing he put in the world. The thing that he put into the world spawned all of this. Yeah, there are going to be some people who are like true to vision. This is version 1 and version last. And then there are going to be people who are like, what else can I do with this? And that's where the interesting stuff is happening, right? Like all the Bitcoin maximalists have is a message that everything was right the first time, nothing should ever change. That's cold. But but they're also just goading people who say, oh yeah, I'll prove you wrong, but also, they're only a fraction of it, and everybody else who's saying like we can evolve this, we can change it, we can do new stuff with it.
It's a massive competition, which is beautiful, right? That's what it is. It's like and it's worldwide, and it's not a controlled system because the governments can't figure out how it's all gonna wrap up. But that's the beauty of it. It's all a big competition for. And here's the thing: right now, I guess my gripe is that. The measure in most spaces of the competition is literally number go up, and there's no consideration for utility or fundamentals in almost every case that you see, at least in the media. But even all the you talk about it, even if you normally go to Tech Press, but you could go to CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, you could go to almost any of the big ones that are doing their crypto focused, and they don't talk about the fundamentals at all. It literally is number go up. Oh, here's a new announcement, number go up. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's bad. At some point it's going to change, but whatever.
Cool.
Anybody else? All right, so let's we'll come right back after this with the next topic. All right. That was a pretty cool commercial there, Zach. Did you do that?
No, I can't do that. Awesome. I'm not a designer by any means.
Very good, very good. Okay, next up, Bit by the Coin. Question is, given the El Salvador government approved a vote to use Bitcoin as a currency without the use of central bank and the Fed, I guess as the alternative to US dollar, right? Are we witnessing the beginnings of a shift of wealth and perhaps new dominant countries? Who wants to start with this?
I'll just start with the no. The El Salvador is not holding its reserve or a large percent of its GDP in Bitcoin, as far as I'm aware. It's just accepting its legal tender for its citizens. So, not sure how El Salvador will, become the largest country in GDP size from this. But I mean, it's a good move for Bitcoin, and it's probably a smart move for the economy of El Salvador with its people. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make any significant impact in terms of its GDP ranking.
Yeah, I agree with Zach there. I think that we are seeing a transfer of wealth. That can't be denied, right? You have just on a people level, El Salvador, Nigeria, different parts of the world where their citizens are actually in Turkey, right, where there's hyperinflation, their citizens are getting into cryptocurrency and storing portions of their wealth there. So I think you are seeing a transfer of wealth, right? As far as becoming a dominant country, I've always believed that, I think a lot of the reason the U.S. holds that power is not because the dollar is worth anything more than to wipe your ass with, but it's like because the military behind it, right? They have the world's strongest military. If you don't approve of their agenda, you'll find out pretty quickly that that's not okay, right? I went to Dubai 3 weeks ago, and they're, and I was talking to a lot of the, people that live in Dubai and grew up in Jordan and different places, and they're like, the U.S. has their thumb on the Middle East, right? So, I don't think we're going to see like a new dominant country when different places, because you're already seeing Peru and different ones adopt Bitcoin, right? But I don't see that narrative playing out necessarily.
So as a counterpoint to that, just within the U.S. Over the last several years, we've seen states like New York trying to tamp down on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, largely because that's where the existing financial institutions are, and they have an interest in preserving the status quo because that works very well for them as it is. Meanwhile, you have states like Wyoming who are trying to pass laws to bring cryptocurrency companies to Wyoming because they're seeing that okay, Wall Street, or New York is missing the boat on this. Wall Street is trying to pretend this isn't happening, and the opportunity here is that this is going to be the next big financial system, and we can either resist it or embrace it, and the people who embrace it are going to be the ones who come out ahead, as this financial system takes over. So, is that enough that it's going to shift from the U.S. being a dominant power? And I think you're right, Bay, that the military presence of the United States is certainly very significant. But if I could certainly see it giving an advantage to some of the smaller countries that embrace this technology and let it build up to be better positioned for a new financial future when this comes to pass.
Wyoming's got a lot to gain from supporting blockchain companies and crypto companies, because think about it, how many billion-dollar companies are headquartered in Wyoming, right? Probably not very many, but how many billion-dollar companies are headquartered in New York? Probably quite a few, right? And so the tax revenue that they would get just from passing legislation like that is fairly significant. And so from their standpoint, they have quite a benefit for them to do something like that. And I think, this might come into play as well in other kind of less economic hot seats like El Salvador, right? If I haven't gone through the El Salvador legislation, but if the legislation was in some way beneficial to having a crypto company there, then, maybe I would consider, incorporating in El Salvador for whatever reason. And that, of course, is going to bring economic gain to the country. Now, I know I just said before that maybe it's not going to increase their GDP very much, but in the sense of, you have multi-billion-dollar companies headquartered in El Salvador, that does kind of, it doesn't change their GDP very much, but it does give them an economic, incentive to support this.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, well, I was going to say two mentions of Wyoming. I think I think what they're doing is brilliant, and it's not because they might be doing it for the financial side of it. And, I know they're doing it for the tax revenue side of it. That makes total sense. But the part that I think is brilliant is it is focused on a fundamental business angle that I know people who have started new entities in Wyoming that are not crypto, because it's a very libertarian focused, at least seemingly, and business focused. Nevada improved on Delaware, and they've improved on that, and they're going to add even more and more. And the fact is, the fundamental shift, I don't even think is primarily financial. That's the first place we see it, because Bitcoin is a currency. But the fundamental shift is software that has some level of autonomy, software that doesn't need a leader to push it. It can set up rewards. And if you follow its process, you get those rewards as a user. Guess what? Adoption happens. It's an amazing thing that did not happen before. Before Bitcoin, you had to have a leader that would go and knock on doors in Northern California and do whatever they have to do to get money, and then do all of the process. You have to have that, and people are imperfect, so it's very hard to find a Steve Jobs that can be so focused on what that is. But with Bitcoin, it's software, so it's going to be focused on that. and it's transparency, and there are all these good things that come out of it if you're using it well. And the fact that they're doing that means potentially they could, they could be the center spot for all of that stuff. And as to nation states, I mean, I've always thought, and this isn't the first, this, like you say, this is not a reserve currency play. In fact, I think it's kind of a weak play. It's a cool thing, and it's amazing, and it's a good thing to get Bitcoin out there, and people will say, we could maybe do this or that also. But the point is, the first small country that adopts cryptocurrency, and it doesn't be Bitcoin. In fact, it would be great if they said, look, we're going to fork something, or we're going to here is a new crypto, and it's transparent. We can't make more. We can't do fractional reserve stuff. This is literally how we're going to maintain. They are going to become extremely wealthy. The first small country that does that, right? This
is El Salvador's play. They're actually going to release a shitcoin, and this is just marketing hype to make their coin go down.
Yep. I do have to say that there's probably more impact on the whole banking system, not necessarily the one that's above the surface, right? Like if the shadow banking system that's largely a market in rehypothecated debt, like where they're just basically going to take and borrow against instruments and trade those off for other instruments that they're going to recollateralize and then trade off again. That's how a lot of money moves, and a lot of the stuff you see about the Fed overnight market operations, where they're doing reverse repos and stuff like that. That's trade in securities that you can recollateralize and sell in exchange for reserves, right? And if you can get outside of that system by making it possible to have legal debts paid in your country in crypto instead of dollars or whatever the currency is, you kind of escape that system. So I think they may be setting up not necessarily an immediate move towards sheltering some of their wealth, their national wealth, from the inevitable collapse of that system, because we've been printing like crazy and telling people not to go to work. Literally, that's a bad sign for the value of the underlying assets, right? The currency's screwed ultimately once the fundamentals catch up. But they may be able to have some people outside of that system altogether by the time that hits, and that to me could be a lot bigger than. I mean, we won't know because the nature of that industry is kind of private and dark. But
and that's how nations become wealthy. If they create clear rules that let people do good business, and they don't cheat on those rules, that generates wealth. So crypto can be a tool for them, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's coming from a legal background, and like the understanding that a legal tender law means this nation guarantees that debts created in that country can be paid in this currency, right? They're going to say this is a valid payment for debt. Our courts will enforce a payment in this as a good payment. So you have to take it. And that means you can create debts that are Bitcoin based instead of dollar based, which I think is huge. So
that's a valid point. I actually did not consider that, and that's actually enormous. And what that allows for the country to do, their exposure and their limit of their risk in terms of outside influence, that's huge.
Hey, can I ask you guys? Oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm going to ask a question after. So,
okay. I was just going to say with what Zach was saying a few minutes ago. I haven't read the full text, but it looks like what they are doing is zero property tax, no capital gains tax on your Bitcoin or your crypto, and immediate permanent resident for any crypto entrepreneur is something that I read, which I thought was pretty good.
But Germany already has the tax thing, right? If you hold tax.
Yeah, but it just seemed like a pretty good red carpet bill, like saying, hey, come here if you want to.
That is smart, because they'll get the crypto people to come in and set up shop. And that's,
I don't know. Raise of hand, who here is moving to El Salvador because of that bill?
Well, I mean,
maybe.
I looked at property there.
I'll check it in a year. I bet you won't be there.
I don't like winter, so.
They have there was a $250,000 piece of property that had a huge waterfall on it, and I called up one of my buddies and I was like, "You could mine a lot of Bitcoin on a waterfall, bro." I don't know.
Brilliant. So my question to you guys is, okay, so it's interesting to me because it's primarily a payments angle to this, right? It is the legal tender for to pay anything at any merchant. In fact, you have to accept Bitcoin, which makes me think, Bitcoin came out as a peer-to-peer cash, right? And it was a beautiful thing. I mean, I remember early days, people on Reddit talking about, I had a buddy in a bar in Germany. He showed me that he was in Germany, and I paid. He showed me that you could buy a beer with Bitcoin in this bar, right? And this person somewhere in the U.S. paid for his beer, and it was an interesting thing. And that now is, it's like, that's an evil thing to say. You shouldn't be wanting to pay for beer or coffee or such small things with Bitcoin. And this is directed at that instead of store value. So I'm like, how is it? And yet now all the maximalists who would tell you 6 months ago, 1 month ago, that nobody needs to be, and or they refer to the Lightning Network if so, but and if they're not talking about Lightning Network, then something isn't decentralized enough. So it's just this weird back and forth with the maximalists that just, it blows me away that nobody calls them out on it. That it's what your network is not decentralized enough. It's like, well, your network feature too high. Oh, use Lightning Network, right? It's like, well, that's anyway.
Is Lightning Network legal tender? Do you have to accept the payment of debt via the Lightning Network? That's kind of an interesting question on how that works. And one thing I do want to clarify, and I'm not particularly familiar with the legal definition of legal tender in countries outside the United States, but here at least it does not mean that you have to accept something as payment for a service not yet rendered. So, if you're at my store and wanting to pay for a thing, I don't have to take the dollar. I could demand Bitcoin for my service now. But if you have a debt and I have to sue you to get that debt paid, you can pay that debt in dollars, and the court's going to consider that valid, even if the original contract was for something in Bitcoin. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody trying to sell coffee has to accept Bitcoin for their coffee. What it means is potentially what it means, and again, I'm not familiar with the specifics of this law.
The original bill actually says, I've got it right here in front of me, and it's as we don't know what the definition of economic agent is, but it says in Article 7, every economic agent must accept Bitcoin as payment when offered to him by whoever acquires a good or service. Now, what is an economic agent? Is that a loan? Business? Is that something dealing with actual economic value, or is that someone selling coffee on the corner? I don't know. And that's just because it's El Salvadorian law, and so I'm not an expert in that. I'm not an expert in any law, but just throwing that out there.
It seems like a pretty strong nudge if it's not an outright mandate to take it. Because ultimately, if you can settle a debt in a thing with the courts, then if you decide that the person who bought that coffee and wants to give you Bitcoin should give you their native currency instead, or dollars or whatever, and you say, no, screw you, sue me, then they sue you and they win because you got the coffee and you pay, right? Pay your judgment. Okay, here's my Bitcoin, right? Like ultimately, if you want to play, I don't want to take this, even though the courts will. Then you can play that, but
the other angle on it was, and I don't know the details of this either, so we're all kind of talking out of it. But I do believe that they said that the exchange rate will be determined by their own centralized exchange. Is that correct? Government controlled exchange. So theoretically, you could manipulate that way too. I don't know, right? It's just an interesting angle on it. So.
I'm actually generally curious on this aspect, which is why not Ether as well? Like, why? I mean, obviously Ethereum has established itself, and I've got a Bitcoin shirt on, so it's not like I'm only for Ethereum, but I feel like they should have accepted Ethereum as well, and Ethereum would have opened up so many more doors for them on a federal level.
Now, Zach, you're making a mistake here. You should be lobbying for them to accept NFTs. Because
that's a different story. Well, I'm actually No, I can't tell you too much, but I am talking with the president about collateralized debt as NFTs with El Salvador. But that's official. I'm just joking. That'd be crazy. But no, I'm serious though. With it, with ETH, I feel like it's, I'm kind of happy they didn't do that because I don't want the transaction fees to go up on Ethereum. But
it can't take it. It can't scale to. That's the other reason.
Well,
Neither one of them. Right. Neither one of them can scale to the large size of transactions that happen in El Salvador, which is frankly upsetting after this many years. Right.
And it's not even about scale because we know that. But if you were to look at it just from the scale standpoint, obviously you would choose Ethereum because it's just quicker, right, than the Bitcoin transaction would be. Yeah. And so that's why it doesn't make any sense. Like, at least why not do a package? I don't know what other coin they would accept other than Bitcoin and Ethereum.
And by the way, that's the same thing. When I wish, let's say U.S., let's say the Fed goes away, whatever else, we'll probably get deplatformed for talking about this. But they should replace it with a bundle of precious metals and crypto, and it should be a bundle. And I'm not a person who manages that. Bay knows people who do, right? That you could actually have that and it would actually be valuable. You'd have transparency, but you wouldn't lose total control. It'd probably be workable, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, we have to hope that the Bitcoin guys don't totally screw this up because, war is inevitable if something goes wrong. Which, by the way, the next thing, which I don't want to go too far into this because it could get really hairy, but what do you think about the risks? And did anyone think about the risks of this? Because you're talking about petrodollar, and I didn't even realize that El Salvador, their currency, their official currency before this was the U.S. dollar. Is that correct? That's what I read. I was like, wait a minute, how did I miss that? But either way, that countries that have tried to do other things without central banks and going against this global have been ended because of it, or at least coincidentally after. And I just have to wonder if that's any mix, or is it, well, the internet's here now, so, and everybody's a conspiracy theorist now, so maybe it's less risky. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the Ethereum point, just to go back to that a little bit, like, this is the start, right? This is the start of something. Everybody's gateway drug to Ethereum is Bitcoin, right? As soon as they see enough crypto entrepreneurship happening where people are literally using Bitcoin in El Salvador by the way of transferring their ETH into an exchange where they can trade it for Bitcoin, or using direct person-to-person exchange to do so, there's going to be a lot of folks who want to use it directly. I think you'll see that their law gets expanded.
Right. Yeah.
An amendment's a hell of a lot easier to pass than a new law. So,
yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. And you know what else? I mean, I've known a lot of Venezuelans that, Bitcoin, Ethereum, but literally anything they can get their hands on to hold the value of whatever, they have from their paycheck. So it's a good thing there. And,
Joe, you mentioned the risk, and I was thinking about it, when we had that crash with Bitcoin recently, and we saw that, 50% in a day. And there was all the news about the, what was it, like, I think billions of dollars in liquidations. Imagine if the news was now billions of dollars of retail investors liquidated, El Salvador liquidated, right? Like the whole country gets liquidated.
Yeah.
So I think that there is some risk that they would expose themselves to if they're holding the asset. And obviously none of us are at the level of managing finances for a country, but the question really is what are they doing with these assets? When I pay my taxes and I pay for services to the government in Bitcoin, what are they doing with them? Are they keeping the Bitcoin? Are they converting it to US dollars, converting it to gold? What is it? Are they buying Doge? Obviously not, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the question also is like, what's the security of the fiat system? Like, the US dollar is backed by what? What happens when the value fluctuates? It's actually anchored to its nominal value in a way that we can't even conceptualize the change of the value of $1. There's no exchange. There's no price list. There's nothing that says like $1 is now 0.098 cents dollar. Like we don't see it. It's hidden from us by the nature of its design. So just as easily as it could be, that Bitcoin took a dive, it could be that the price of the dollar went up, and that's why Bitcoin price appeared to go down relative to the dollar.
It's all
Right?
balanced.
We don't really know because the dynamics of that are hidden from us by the central banking systems. So
It doesn't take much digging to find out that you're losing about 4%, holding your dollar in a savings account pretty much year over year, right? I mean,
Minimum.
it's and I might be exaggerating that, right? That number obviously fluctuates depending on inflation, but real inflation versus the number they want to pump out there is not correct. Like, it's not
I think
1-to-1,
the latest
right?
number is 4% actually right now. It wasn't before, but the latest published number I think was 4%.
It was,
Yeah, and it's
4.1, 4.2, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Chicago, and I can tell you things have gone up a lot more than 4%, right? So it's interesting, right? They mask over it, right? $1 is $1, but it doesn't take much digging to find out that that's not really the case.
Yeah.
Right.
And anything you buy in a package is smaller than it was a year ago too. So it's like there's multiple ways to control that.
Yeah, I keep looking at the Dollar Tree and these dollar stores thinking,
mega roll down with
Penny
40% left, right?
Yes. We need to open up a Satoshi store in the coming years, right? And then everything's a Satoshi. It's like, we can't let you transfer it though. You have to buy 100 things because the fees are too high. So, but anyway.
well, that's what I think the Lightning Network, like, that's going to be more profitable for people that, like, people should open Lightning nodes. I'm for that. Like, I think they should stop screwing with Bitcoin. I don't want it to break. I think it's too important to. I get, that it's slow and cumbersome and expensive, but I'm kind of just one of those people that are like, stop evolving the base layer and let it be not broken.
So would you like with C code? Would you say it's golden standard? Don't touch it anymore, except for maybe potential hits. We're not going to add any more features.
No,
and I'm all for it if that's the decision, because it's a competition. So the one that stays and is fundamentally solid, but then others will do other things. And by the way, not everything is a payment system. So that's the other thing that kills me, because I don't.
Right.
I frankly don't
That's
care
what
about
I was getting
payments
at
very
earlier
much,
about
right?
using it the wrong way, kind of thing. Using it for the security value, we talked about before.
Yep. Dragonchain, they'd have to hate if they cared to ever look about how Dragonchain uses Bitcoin. But you know what? We use it.
Oh yeah,
and we use it for real.
It's
and
awesome.
it's there's a value there, right? And that, by the way, is an unanticipated value of creating that network. That some side network can use it for security. It's like, that's it's cool. So I love it.
Right. Well, I mean, another thought on NFTs. Like, what if we used NFTs to make transaction systems work? You don't buy, 1 Satoshi worth of something at the Satoshi store. You buy an NFT that is worth so many Satoshis in spend, and you credit an account with it based on somebody's proof that they bought this. NFT as purchasing power in a given store, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's just a gift card.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And that's not really actually practical if we're talking about Satoshis and actual Bitcoin, because interoperability between two blockchains.
Right, I'm talking about more like Ethereum, but
yeah. And no, you could do that, but I'm never a fan of medium to medium of exchanges. And Vitalik has a really good post about this, where he talks about a lot of shitcoins are just medium to medium of exchanges, meaning instead of paying with crypto, instead of paying with Bitcoin or Ethereum, go convert your Bitcoin and Ethereum to my shitcoin, and then you can pay with my shitcoin, and I'll convert it back over, right?
By the way, that's like dollar stable coins. That's I never quite. I mean, it's for traders, they're amazing because I can exit and hold, and I can come back in, right? I mean, it's a very convenient thing on an exchange to do. Not that I have been good at that at all, but the thing that was always weird to me is it's like, well, you're not making it easier for a normal person to use a system, because they still have to go buy Bitcoin to get the stable coins to come to your. It's like it didn't really answer what they were supposedly trying to answer.
I just got a call today.
Used to be a thing. Right?
Sorry, what used to be a thing? What?
I was saying, like, Raft Ether used to be a thing everybody had to manually get, and it was really confusing to explain. Try to explain why you need to take your Ether and turn it into wheat and then do this. Like,
Yeah, the first time I did that, the entire process, I was clicking, I was thinking, why am I doing this now?
That's what the W stands for. Is why. No,
it makes total sense. You get it, but like,
it does from a technical standpoint. You have to do it from a technical standpoint because you can't approve a future transaction on just Ethereum. But OpenSea, the largest NFT exchange marketplace, they require you to use wrapped ETH for a lot of transactions. Mintable, we refuse to use wrapped ETH. We refuse to accept DAI or USDT or any other ERC20 because when I go to my mom, or just like we've all said, the first question is, why am I doing this? No one understands why, because they're not a developer. And it's just a stupid process to put on someone. It's like going to Starbucks and you got to wrap your US dollar into Starbucks dollars to make to buy a coffee. Like, why the hell would I want to do that? That's a stupid process. And these are user experience issues that we have to solve in the blockchain space. And this is the same with Lightning Network. It's the same with, just pretty much every payment system of crypto. There's a horrible user experience that has to be solved.
Right.
And
Dude, why has Starbucks not issued a shitcoin called Starbucks? Because they really ought to do that.
We tried. I'm not going to get any flack from our community. Yeah, but we tried. But either way, to the wrapped ETH question and the UI, it's all dogma. It is because people want decentralization for decentralization's sake without thinking about when you could really use it for value. That holding something decentralized that might be a good asset so that I can put it in my safe and have full control. I wouldn't care if somebody screws up at an exchange and messes up their security like they do often, and I lose it. That is the beauty, the value. That was the first thing that I noticed that was so different in 2010 when I bought my first Bitcoin from Mt. Gox, that moving it to my laptop on this, really crappy, I can't even remember what wallet I used. It might have just been the bitcoin.org wallet that was running there. But it was amazing because I'm like, nobody controls this but me. It's all based on these keys. It's a beautiful thing. And that is decentralization. The network itself, it's like you can't tell me Bitcoin is actually purely decentralized, because it isn't. There's a lot of centralization in mining and in the development team and other things that could be attacked by any number of people that want to kill it.
Right.
And but you live with that, and you try to get it as decentralized as possible. But sometimes we talk to people about Ethereum and they get angry because you say, no, it's hybrid. This part is centralized. Why? Because it's a business, and that they legally can't expose this customer's health data or whatever. That there are real world problems that we want to solve. It's like, fine, if you don't want to solve those problems and you just want to purely do decentralized something, that's fine, but it's not real world. Then it's not going to have as big of an impact everywhere as if you are stand back and say, okay, we want to decentralize this part. We want to keep centralized. Because no matter what, even the store itself that accepts is centralized. It's like, oh, should they have their money in their safe? That's centralized. Shouldn't they have it in some other way? It's like,
right, exactly. Well, the question is, like, what is it for? What's decentralization for? Really?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's for what? Actually, literal question for the floor. Let's answer that out loud just for fun. I'm curious what you guys would say.
Well, it's not for my private key. I'm centralizing that.
Yeah. It is for proof in the end, and that's what we focus on. But even in Bitcoin, it's for proof, because without the proof, that I couldn't trust. I can look at Bitcoin and I can actually measure the value of the hash power that has been applied to know that you really do have that balance. It's proving it to itself based upon that same set. But in the end, it is. It's all about that. You decentralize. You want the proof decentralized because that's the part that we really need to know. Now, your data, maybe you don't want it decentralized. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the whole point of it is you could bring your data in and prove your data, even if it's not a currency transaction. I can come in and
prove your data without intermediaries, right? Like, ultimately, it's freedom from intermediaries is what matters.
Yeah, and I when I say that, I mean that I can hand it to you and you can prove for yourself, right? It's not just trusting that, oh, I'm telling you, look, I have this. So, yeah.
Right, and so kind Professor Moneybags, whatever the name of the monopoly guy is, like, we don't need him anymore, right? The bank doesn't have to be there, and everybody's excited about that part. That whoever sits in the middle and adds friction and annoyance and or excludes you altogether from it, that guy doesn't have to be there. Like,
and it doesn't have to be bank.
Decentralization matters to people.
Yeah, it could be Jack or Zuckerberg, right? It's like you don't have to have those central authorities anymore.
Right. So if we forget that decentralization serves an end, then we're just arguing for like a proxy measure. The target has become weirdly divorced from the purpose of it, which is to provide people with a free way to interact that doesn't require them to pay the highwayman before they can get on the highway, right?
Yeah, that's what decentralized for. Education went through the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that the decentralization needs to serve its purpose, but if it doesn't go beyond that and get to some perfect hypothetical reality where some aggressive hyperspace intermediary decides it wants to try to reassert itself, and they're going to do it by attacking the system with all-out war. Like, okay, we'll deal with that if it gets there, but they're probably not going to take it that far. For now.
Most people don't give a shit about decentralization, though. The average person doesn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can give you a statistic on Mintable. We have 500,000 NFTs. Do you know how many of them are hosted in a decentralized manner? We give you the option. Like, you get a pick. You know how many are doing it in a decentralized manner? About 500 out of 500,000.
Yeah.
So that's
same thing on Den.Social. We have over 100 million NFTs created in lot for ownership of the layers, and 100
million.
Yeah, 100 million, and we have. I don't remember the percentage, but at some point we went 2 months where they are purely Ethereum, right? When we had a separate portion that was internal, and we opened it up so you could run everything. You can bring your tokens in from the outside and use them in the system. And because the fees, because you're typically wanting to interact with a bunch of different things, on Ethereum, people were spending thousands of dollars. Where I think Dave actually spent a couple of grand worth of fees on Ethereum, leaking to miners because he couldn't do it internally. Now you do it internally, there's no fee. So you're totally right. It's like people care about efficiency first, the normal people. And in fact, the thing that's beautiful about the whole thing, that you can work the interface to, the user experience can be focused on. People don't care about decentralization until they do, right? That at some point they might say, you know what, I didn't realize I could do X, and now they can, and it's their choice, right? But otherwise, they're just doing their thing inside the system and building value and doing good things.
Whenever all that gas money was wasted on the whatever we were just talking about. Sorry, words in my brain. So doing it the different way. The cool thing is, like, the only difference really is that I spend less money, because doing it all internally, I can still export that out to Ethereum after they're all created. I can still take them out and use them anywhere in the world. It's just that I do all of the work on something that's fast and cheap, and I'm not spending it $2,000.
That's not necessarily about decentralization or not. That's more about just a layer 2 and a scalability issue.
Yeah, true,
if you can export the NFT over to the main blockchain, it's still decentralized, but it's still not. Actually, not. It depends on where the data is stored. Because if the data is stored on Den.Social's website and Den goes down, then the data for the NFTs is down. And the NFTs
it's not art. Yeah, it's not art. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm throwing out examples. It's the same with Mintable as well. It's just funny. The whole point I brought this up is no one gives a shit. A normal person doesn't care, and it's because there's just like when Bitcoin started, there was the crypto anarchists, the people that were really die-hard cryptographers that really cared about Bitcoin, right? The people that were talking with Nick Szabo about Hashcash in the 90s. These people, they really, really, really care about the principles and the core principles behind Bitcoin. And how many are there? A few hundred, right? A few thousand maybe out of 8 billion people on the planet. So it's a very small subsection that builds amazing technology that gets picked up by billions of people, and they forget about the core principles that were applied to that amazing technology, what created that amazing technology. And it's the same for everything, right? You had a few core founding fathers, right? The founding fathers for America, the people that created the internet. You have all these amazing innovations, and progress in society that the mass adopts, and we all forget about the core principles behind that, right?
Right. At the same time,
So Zach, I kind of think of it like.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. So I was just saying, I kind of think of it like customer service, right? You don't realize you need customer service until you fucking need it, right? Decentralization in 2008 is the reason that we're sitting here and we're even having this conversation, right? You don't realize that you need it until you need it, right? And in this, as Joe was alluding to in the beginning, this up-only mentality, what about when it all breaks down? What about when the printing gets out of control? Then it's like, oh shit, we need decentralization, right?
Yep.
So
that's why I've tried numerous times. We've been successful a couple of times. I've tried numerous times to get some of the well-established businesses, lots of customers, to do what they actually should do, right? What their shareholders would want them to do, which, I can't tell you who, but sitting down at the headquarters of a prominent company that should be very concerned about the potential for their data to be hacked and to get out there or to be manipulated, even worse. And I was telling them, look, you don't have to make this a blockchain play, a Bitcoin marketing effort. It's not about that. This is about proof that you can have this proof behind the scenes. Your customers don't even have to know about it. They wouldn't care until something happens. And then you can actually prove what went wrong. You can prove, oh yeah, we had a person on the inside that did this, and we have proof. So we know that we didn't lose any data. We can recover, we can do all the things you would need to do. But they didn't get it. And it was like, oh, people already trust us. It's like, well, they trust you until they don't trust you, because at some point in your history, every big company is going to have some big scandal where the very thing that they're supposed to be doing is not being done. And this is the way to do it. And, behind the scenes. And, frankly, that would be a beautiful story, because it's like, hey, we added this layer without, bragging about it. And it's behind the scenes and it's running on everything. So we can prove every single step that we take. That's what should be done. But, they aren't, a lot of places aren't getting that yet. But that was a couple of years ago. So, people are getting it now. But anyway, we're probably long on time. Does anyone have anything? I should say, anyone have anything that they want to tell the audience about, what's going on with your apps, with your projects? Who wants to chime in and plug something?
I'm just going to plug Den.Social. We're getting pretty close to like what I would consider a release for a wider audience on that. So come in and try it out and tell us what we need to get right before we do that big launch. No, but it's fun. It's been a lot of fun, and people are making a lot of money on there, just being valuable and sharing their knowledge and sharing information and doing what a social network should be good for. So Den.Social.
Joe, we've talked a couple times, and the main underlying point that we always come to is that Beaxy's actually using Dragonchain. And this is very relevant to your audience, right? We're actually using Dragonchain, and it's backing and improving all of our transactions, partials, fills, executions, all the way down the line throughout the order book. And that's very relevant to your audience, right? So I think that I guess that's a good plug there.
It's a perfect example of behind the scenes. I mean, you're doing that, and it might not matter for 99.9% of all the transactions that happen, but on the ones that it might matter on, it will be amazing that it's there, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Not to double plug, but I'm actually moving most of my stuff, and I'm trading on Beaxy when I do trade, just because I am paranoid of my own government, and I do expect at some point that I'm going to get some letters saying, you better prove all your things, and I'll be able to pull a proof report from Beaxy and be like, no, look, here's where I put it in, here's where I took it out, and there's no way to dispute that. So I'm for more people using proof, and that's what I don't understand about a lot of things is like all of a sudden we want to come in and make it harder for people to cheat and lie and do bad things, and that's we can't have any of that.
Yeah, we need trusted institutions for that, not decentralized systems.
Right. Oh, sorry, I left my proof in El Salvador. Let me get there. I'll get it to you.
All right. How about Rivet? Anything?
I personally would just say, I mean, Austin, do you have anything that you want to particularly call out? Because I was just gonna say one basic thing, but
Yeah, go for it.
like I just like to repeat this. If you're watching this and you have an idea in your head and you can see how it could benefit the world, and if nobody else is doing it, build it. Go out and start. If you don't develop, either learn or find somebody who can share your vision with you. Rivet is here to help you get started. Like, you want to get up and running on ETH, and you don't want to bother with setting up a node, and you don't want to go to some place where you have to get your legal team out to negotiate a good service deal, and you just want to sign up for something quick. We'll get you set up with the quick access that you need to start building something right now. Like, if you can code React and you know how to hook up to an API, you could be building on Ethereum in minutes. So don't hold those ideas, because the world needs them. Like, if nobody's put it out there yet, they need you. So
Greg, on Rivet's point, Mintable wants to offer every NFT on the Ethereum blockchain on Mintable automatically, right? So we want to know every transaction that happens in the blockchain, and if it's got an NFT in it, we want to be able to update, and show that who owns it, everything like that. And we've been looking for a node as a service provider or a cloud infrastructure for running nodes. And I think that something like what you guys do at Rivet is really critical in opening up the door for allowing people like us to do the things that we want to do.
Well, and we also have some extended APIs that you may be interested in particular for tracking more of the stuff that you can't necessarily just query for on a regular node. So we should touch base on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But you could probably sign up for an account before the thing is over, and we'll totally hook you up with stuff. So you can even use your Web3 account and not even put in an email. So
what? I can sign up with a web. What? Really? I can sign up with a Web3 account?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
Zach's gonna sign up right now while we're talking. He's clicking through.
Well, it says log in with Web3. No way. Oh, that's cool.
I didn't know.
How are you gonna email me spam if I can't give you my email?
So
exactly, right? How are we gonna do
hang on a second.
They'll send you tokens.
We do. Are you guys familiar with ethmail.cc?
I am. I was talking with him years ago about making them as NFTs.
We will actually send you invoices and stuff to your ethmail.cc address if
wow.
If you sign up with
Why
Web3
not? Have you looked at EPNS to do push notifications?
I have not.
You should look into it. EPNS is a way for you to do push notifications to an Ethereum address. So I can sign in my Ethereum address, and then you can give me a push notification every 5 minutes that my node has received a new transaction.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's exactly what I want. No, it's cool. It's cool. It just costs in the beginning stages. You have to pay for that push notification, which is unfortunate. But it is really cool, actually. No, and Rivet looks really cool as well. We'll definitely be talking about that. We've got some cool stuff we're trying to do.
And it's like 3 million free requests a month. It's the most. We actually literally looked to see if anybody else could give you a better deal, and then set it as high as we could. Like, there's no reason to talk to us if you don't want to, and you're out there. Like, just set something up. But Zach, we'd specifically like to talk to you if we can help. So
yeah, please do. We've talked.
Anything coming on Mintable?
Yeah, man, we've got a lot of stuff coming on Mintable. I don't know. How do you guys feel about BitBoy? He's dropping some NFTs on the 15th. They're really cool, actually. They're going to be used for airdrops. So all his subscribers, he's the largest YouTuber for crypto. We're going to do a drop of some NFTs. There's a limited edition of 16 NFTs. We've got some very rare and famous physical art pieces we're doing drops with. We've got a upgrade to our profile system and some new features for our profiles coming maybe Sunday. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it got pushed back. And we've got so much stuff going on.
Weekend releases, even that's scary stuff if you're a dev, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am a dev, and it's I work 24/7, man. It's unfortunate. It's like it's like midnight right now. And here I am, right? It's still, I live and breathe crypto and Mintable. So unfortunately, I don't have that
Right on.
luxury of taking the time off.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry we ran over. I'm getting better at this, but we ran over a little bit, trying to keep it under an hour. So apologies, guys. Thanks everybody for coming on. You guys are very nice to come on, and with me being such a poor host. And I wanted to make sure that we tell everybody for next week, so come back and watch us next week, but go in and ask the questions you want answered. And what we got through today, that was kind of what we were wanting to do, with thorough answers as much as we could. And so, yeah, go in to Den.Social. It's in the cryptocurrency layer. There will be a post for episode 4. Go in there and ask questions, and vote on the questions that are in there, because they'll get ranked entirely based upon what you want to see answered, right? So that's the whole of it. So we'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody. And you guys stick around after this if you want to say anything. I'll be here for a little bit. But if not, don't worry. You can head out during this quick break.